Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
Well, folks, as I say, as a good old Scotsman, grab yourself a drink and pull up a chair because it's time for another episode of the Soul Sessions. Of course, as always, I'm your host, Soul. But with me today, well, the big Slay, former three-time WrestleZone Tag Team Champion, Connor Molloy. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much for having me on, Soul. It's nice to have a wee chat about wrestling.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure, Connor. But of course, you know, as I say, every guest has a story. Every story has a beginning. Connor, how did your story begin as a wrestling fan?
I don't particularly remember like the first time I seen wrestling. I always tried to watch it as much as I could as a kid, but we didn't have Sky or anything, so like WWE wasn't particularly accessible. Whenever I'd be around at my cousins, he had quite a few like old WWE DVDs, or my uncle did. I watched a lot of TNA growing up because that was on like Challenge, so I could actually see that. So that was a lot more accessible. But then when I was like 10, I borrowed the 2010 Royal Rumble DVD from my friend, and that must honestly be the pay-per-view I've seen more than any other, because the amount I just repeated watching that DVD, and like falling in love with Shawn Michaels as well. Shawn Michaels is probably still my favorite wrestler of all time. I'm not sure if Bryan Danielson might. It's very close, but I don't know if anyone will ever be able to overtake Shawn in my heart. Even though like it was his story of get the Slammies, want another match with the Undertaker, try to win the Royal Rumble to get another match with him, Elimination Chamber. That storyline was really what cemented my love for wrestling. And Shawn becoming my favorite wrestler, and that was also when he left. So, but it was just after, like, I remember seeing, like, borrowed the 2010 DVD, and then I think it was like later on in the year we got Sky. I think I just relentlessly pestered my mum into, okay, no, this is now my fuel of obsession. I need to just watch this as much as possible. And I think we got it Sky just as like it was like the Nexus had just debuted, and then just never stopped. And of course, Raw, airing at like 1 or 2 in the morning here. I would get up at like 6 o'clock before school every morning on Tuesdays, when I was on like primary school, and just so I could watch Raw before I went to school, because I just became completely overwhelmingly addicted and in love. And, well, I guess it was 15 years later, and it's not really wavered. So I don't think it's going anywhere. My love for wrestling anytime soon.
Hey, fair dues. I mean, you must have had a hell of a sleep schedule, waking up all the time at 6 a.m. for me. I mean, hey, fair play for you there. Fair play. Obviously, Connor, you mentioned the Royal Rumble 2010, an amazing Royal Rumble in itself, but the Royal Rumble as the whole concept is so important to wrestling, because it's a lot of people enjoy that, sometimes even more than a WrestleMania, but just because of what the match type is. Obviously, Pat Patterson was one of the originators of the Royal Rumble. It was tested out of a house show, then it got its own showcase, and now it's become a real pay-per-view standard for the WWE. For yourself, Connor, the Royal Rumble in itself, do you think it is probably one of the most important PLEs shows that WWE has ever really produced?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've got friends that aren't even wrestling fans per se, but everyone loves the Rumble. The excitement, who's coming out next, who's going to make a surprise appearance, a return, a nostalgia. So like even people that I watch my friends with that aren't particularly wrestling fans, or they don't really know wrestling at all. I think the Rumble could just suck you in, because it's like it should never be boring, because there should someone who's coming out next, oh, that cool thing just happened, what's about to happen next. And it's just said, for a lot of people it is now. For me, it's my favorite show of the year. Royal Rumble is my absolute favorite show of the year. Obviously, Mania's Mania, but no, the show I get most excited for each year is the Royal Rumble, and now we get to watch 2 of them each year, which is a bonus. And the Rumble for me is always an excitement, and it starts the road to WrestleMania. So it's when the season wrestling really picks back up, and there's just a buzz about the live wrestling in general. Is just so good, but watching the Rumble live is something special.
Oh, absolutely. It is an exceptional match type as well. And of course, we've had this year, SummerSlam's going to 2 nights. There's talks of, other pay-per-views going to 2 nights. And the Rumble itself as a 2-night spectacle would be quite interesting. Have a men's main event one, a women's main event the second. Do you think with that it will help counteract the sort of fatigue a Rumble can provide? Because obviously they are quite long, they're quite packed to the brim, and sometimes other matches suffers in between them. So do you think with them going 2 nights, it's going to be truly beneficial for viewer retention with a 2-night Royal Rumble?
Yeah, definitely, because I know some people do struggle with two Rumbles in one night, because it's essentially 2 hours of a Rumble. I don't mind, just because how much I love watching the Rumbles. I was surprised, to be honest, that SummerSlam was going to 2 nights before the Rumble. I assumed that it just seems. I mean, SummerSlam is it's the Summer Mania, I guess, so you can easily split that into two. But Royal Rumble just seemed like the easiest one to split, cause to have the men and the female both get a main event Rumble. But I think it's definitely gonna be in the next couple of years. I can't imagine it won't be. I imagine they'll it's gonna get to all of the big four on 2 nights, and having war games if they keep doing that. Headline both nights as well. Just the way they're the way they're going, the amount of tickets they're selling. I can't and interest and buzz. If they do keep pushing it as much as they can, I don't see why not.
Hey, fair dues as well. If there's a demand for it, go for it, because not only will it build up profits, but hey, more people on cards, more viewers, eyes on product. Everybody wins except our wallets. We don't win on that front, sadly. We are getting screwed on that day and night. But of course, obviously, Royal Rumble, there's been many great ones. There's been many that have not been so great. A lot of people like to look at the 2015 Royal Rumble, obviously, where Roman Reigns won, or sorry, yes, as Batista won, as the worst one. It was terrible. It was bad. It was absolutely diabolical. It was just making everybody cry. Do you think that's the worst one, or is there one in particular in mind that you think, yeah, that's terrible?
That was it, because that was Batista won one year and then Reigns won the year after. That was a rough 2 years. I don't know. Reigns winning, it was probably the worst reception. The Rock coming out and still not even managing to get him cheered, and looking completely surprised why even he was getting booed. I think for the fact that they managed to get Rey Mysterio booed as well for coming out in number 30 and just the crowd being so disappointed he wasn't Daniel Bryan, and you're booing the legend that is Rey Mysterio for just not being the person you wanted him to be when he's goddamn Rey Mysterio. I think 2015 probably is the worst one. It's certainly interesting looking back, obviously, when you see where Reigns has ended up going, and it's just a completely different beast of a wrestler at this point, and character and presentation. Looking back, the big dog was not like a wee puppy looking back compared to the tribal chief.
Hey, very true. It's a big catalyst that led into the whole tribal chief era, and so you just never know what little spark could bring on something so great down the line. Obviously, you spoke about your love for Shawn Michaels, HBK, somebody that I think a lot of people look up to as one of the greatest to ever do it. His in-ring style, his promos, his whole presentation, the whole shabam, iconic. And obviously right now we're seeing him lead NXT into its new era. And there's so much support behind it. There's so much love behind it as well. Connor, what's your thoughts on obviously on a legend and an icon like HBK now providing his expertise, his knowledge, his insight to this new batch of WWE superstars?
Well, I mean, what better mind could you have leading next generation and learning from than arguably the best of all time? And if even if you don't think he's the best of all time, certainly pretty much everyone who loves wrestling would put him at least pretty high up there. I don't think he's got such a great mind for the business. I don't know if you can have anyone better really to learn from. If I could pick anyone in the world to teach me, I'm sure it would probably be Shawn. And I'm sure even now, if he decided to lace up a pair of boots, he would wrestle circles around 99.9% of wrestlers, even nearly 60 years old. Um, yeah, I would love to meet him at some point and just yeah, learning from him must be so cool. Like the fact that he runs NXT is just the sickest thing ever.
Oh, absolutely as well. And it's insane as well to think, black and gold era run by Triple H, this new era, it's Shawn Michaels. And obviously, there's always the future. And a lot of people think, Mr. Best in the world, CM Punk, could possibly lead NXT in the future. And with his creative mind, if that does happen, Connor, what CM Punk presents in wrestling, how do you think his mindset and vision and his presentation style could lead NXT in the future?
Punk again is up there for me as one of my absolute faves. Again, such a great mind for wrestling. If you look at his entire career, he's been on top everywhere he's been. And it's such a captivating storyteller. Great on the mic, obviously great in the ring too. But like his storytelling and is I think the biggest driver for him. Like the way he's able to emote and sell and tell stories, and just sell an entire pay-per-view with just a 5-minute promo. Is unmatched. There's better. There's very few people on the mic in history that can match up to him. So I think like he would be, if it was up to me, he would definitely be one of the next people. If Shawn only wanted to do it for run NXT for so long, or if he ended up going to run SmackDown or something, I don't know if you could get much better than a next in line than CM Punk. And it is just completely wild that with Road Dogg going to be on SmackDown head writer as well. Like DX is just running WWE, which if you said like 20 years ago, it'd be that's just DX would just be completely running WWE. It's pretty mental.
Oh my God, it's just think about it. Triple H and Shawn cutting those Bill Clinton style promos back in the 90s, and now they're running the whole ship. I mean, hey, anything can happen in the world, and that just shows it right there. But obviously, as well, we still got a lot of great modern era stars on the roster right now. But time is the saddest of mistresses is that it's always moving forward, but it is a handicap for some people because you can't stop the hands of time. Is there anybody on current WWE roster, Connor, that you think would be a great backstage mind, whether it's their experience or what they offer in their ring or presentation, that you think could be a benefit for future WWE superstars down the line?
I think there's a plethora. So many that have got like Randy. I think because obviously he's got such a great mind. And the way he's able to. He's been doing this for so long, and I know wants to try and go for another 10 years or something. But I think he would be someone if he wants to stay around in the business. I could him having I don't know if he would want to have a corporate backstage role or something. But even if they just kept him on for anything, I think he would be a great person to have always on hand. Like, the fact that he doesn't do that much, and in terms of moves or whatever, it's a perfect example that you really don't have to. It's the way you your character and your motivations and your promos, everything. He's just there's nothing he's bad at. Like there's some wrestlers, they're in rings, great promos could do a bit of work, or their character work, or this or that, but he's just got everything. And to have him as a mind on hand would always be great.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't RKO his staff members, then I think we're in for a very good situation. I'm sure HR will not have to get involved in that. That would be a very good, squeaky clean record there for the backstage view of the WWE. But obviously, Connor, as well, yourself, as I say, once a fan, always a fan, but you'd be a fan that would take an extra step into the square circle itself. I would love to know your experience of obviously exploring our wrestling scene and then eventually becoming a part of it.
Yeah, so I always wanted to, I think everyone that grows up watching wrestling, everyone has that at least somewhat that thing in the back of their mind. Oh God, I'd love to do that. Um, it was after I finished high school, and I was like, oh God, what do I do now? Wasn't going to uni or anything. Didn't do particularly well in school, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And then I was like, is there any wrestling schools near me? I'm like, I'm young. If I want to give this a go, no better time to do it than just now. And I looked, and the closest one was wrestling in Aberdeen, which was about 2 hours away. And I emailed them, and they got back to me. And then like a week later, I just said to my mum, I was like, I'm going to Aberdeen tomorrow. I'm going to learn how to be a wrestler. And but I mean, best decision I ever made was you know learn or taking that leap, a terrifying leap to go try and become a wrestler. And wouldn't trade it for the world. They're just obviously like this, just the side of performing and wrestling is one thing, but like even the training and the friendships and so the friendships are made along the way. The camaraderie and because it's everyone pushing each other to do even better. I think it's not a one man team. You're only as good as you're in the ring with, or what the whole team on your company to be doing as well as possible. So you're all firing off on all cylinders. But there's just I don't know. There's everything about wrestling is there's no feeling like it. I will say there's no buzz you get if from being out in front of if you get if you've got a really hot crowd, or you're having a good match and you've got that feeling of we've got them here, or and I think as well, like only in the last year and a half, 2 years, I'd say I've really started to enjoy like the promos side of it more, in the cat like since I became the Big Slay, and the character side of it for me a lot more is I've been able to then have a lot more fun, not just having matches, but like really performing during the matches, taking those little moments and being able to give more out to the crowd, and then get more back from them, and it just makes a lot more fun and a lot easier as well.
No, absolutely, mate. Hey, 100% there, agree there. And I'm always love to hear about this sense of camaraderie and brotherhood. I was speaking to Bruiser Brad on the show, and we talked about that bond as well. And I don't think it's something that wrestling fans understand, and obviously they can't connect on it on their level. Can you describe to me, Connor, about this bond? Obviously, with somebody you share the square circle, if you're doing your matches, you spend this time on the road, you spend this time learning. What is this wrestling brotherhood or bond like to experience?
Like I think because as well as wrestling is such a unique entertainment form, and even a lot of people that watch wrestling don't necessarily know everything that's going on in the ring. Well, they shouldn't as well, and know everything that's going on in the ring and the psychology and everything that all the little parts. Because when you see it on TV, it looks easy because they should look like they know exactly what they're doing. But there's a million and one things that go into making it look as seamless and as easy. And when you've got people that you really trust, and you're all pushing towards the same goal, that makes it so much easier. But I think as well because it is inherently very dangerous. Wrestling, if it goes wrong, you have to have this trust in people. Because every time someone picks you up for even a slam or a suplex. If they don't know what they're doing, dangerous, and you could get hurt. So you have to trust the people you're doing it with, obviously, and know that they're going to look after you.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. It's a trustworthy bond, and you got to have that with wrestling because obviously it's a dangerous aspect, but there's a brotherhood at the end side of it because you have that respect for one another. Of course, as well, wrestling fans, they love to know everything. They like to document everything, and obviously one place they do that is good old Cage Match, Tony Khan's favorite website. And obviously you're a part of that, Connor. Your matches are documented on it, your career's documented on it, titles you've won, places you've been. Is it quite out of body to know that your career is being documented by possibly thousands or maybe even millions of people online?
Yeah, I guess I've never really thought about it before. I try to just living the moment with it, I guess, so far. Sorry, I feel like I've been wrestling for quite a number of years. When did I start? 8 years ago in the summer or something. But I also feel like at the same time I'm just getting started, like completely just at the beginning and just getting started. So I still feel like the absolute, not the absolute beginning of my story, but towards the very start. I feel like especially the last like year or two, that this is really when things have been uh, starting to click for me mentally and being able to perform wise. Um, so I don't know. I guess we'll see how many hundreds, hopefully, or thousands of matches do end up getting recorded on there. We'll see.
Yeah, well, hey, who knows? Maybe we could even shift some to big old Meltzer and get you in the Tokyo Dome for that 6-star match. I mean, hey, anything's possible, brother. You never know what you can experience or find in the crazy world of professional wrestling. But obviously, we mentioned at the start of this, you're former three-time WrestleZone Tag Team Champions. Obviously, 2 of those reigns are under a previous guest of this show, somebody that people think is Logan Paul, but I've been on record that he's not, Ronan King. And I just want to know what's that experience like tagging with Ronan.
Oh, I mean, Taken Roan is great. We're very good friends outside of the ring. He's someone that we very much enjoy pushing each other in the ring and out. But I have tagging with him is a blast. We have just so much fun together. Uh, during our entrances, just taking the piss out of the crowd and having a fun time, and backstage and coming up with stuff. And I feel like putting stuff together, and we're very good at collaborating and coming up with ideas together. But even in terms of like training, pushing each other. I remember I was trying for months a few years ago to be able to do a 450, and it just wasn't happening. And then Ronan started trying as well, and then it was like 6 weeks or something where we were both trying, just couldn't get it. We were getting so close, and then he went up and he nailed one at training. And I'm a very competitive person as well, and I was so proud of him. I was like, yeah, that was amazing, and congratulations. But also, I was like, I need to get up and do this right now. So within like 30 seconds, I was like, I got up to the top rope, and I was like, I'm either gonna break my neck or I'm gonna do this, because I need to be able to do it. And I done it first try after. So it was very much a case of being able to push each other. But yeah, he's Ronan's not to put him over too much. But no, Ronan is great. He's he's obviously wrestling loads and loads of places. He's going to be a big star in wrestling. He's got everything it takes to and he's only 21 or something. So he's all the time in the world. The next 20 odd years or whatever. But no, he's and he's got himself into phenomenal shape. So yeah, he's doing really well.
Good day. I mean, you're making me feel old. This old knee's going to start creaking soon enough. We'll need some WD-40 on it. But he digressing on that point there, brother. But obviously as well, 3-time WrestleZone Tag Team Champion, and a WrestleZone obviously the place that got your foot in the door, basically. It must be quite rewarding to know that the place you built yourself up, developed yourself, and then winning a championship in it, it's got to be one of the most humbling experiences, correct?
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely it's surreal, especially I think the two with Ronan have been very special, because the first one that I won with Crusher Crepe, that was just at the end of my first year, and we had done like a year-long sort of storyline feud, and then ended up becoming a team and winning the tag titles together. And it's not that I felt I didn't deserve it, but I think I did. I'd only been wrestling on shows for like just over a year at the time, whereas now with Ronan, like I feel a lot more cemented in myself and in wrestling, and especially at the tabs, like even when me and Crusher won the titles, I was still like maybe the newest person on the roster, which is whereas now definitely in wrestling being one of the more cemented people on the shows for 6 something years at this point. It's the fact that wrestling have given us those or me 3 opportunities to hold the tag titles, and they put their trust in you to become one of their champs. From taking my first roles and my first bumps to them, wrestling at the biggest shows of the year in Aberdeen Anarchy, and winning. We won our first. Me and Ronan won our first set of tag titles last year at Aberdeen Anarchy. It's really cool. Wrestling is. I'll never take it for granted. How fun wrestling is. I feel like sometimes people can get bogged down in wishing maybe they had a better spot, or they wish that their match was different, or they wish that the character they were doing was different or something. But I do just try to remember that wrestling at the end of the day is it's the coolest thing in the world. For me, it's just so sick. I can't imagine that anything giving me the buzz and the feeling that wrestling does. And I hope to keep doing it for a long time, because there's just something about it, and especially when you are doing matches with your really good friends, and if you come back and you get that feeling of, God, look what we all just did. That was so sick. We got to just go wrestle in front of 400 or 500 people and put on a banging match, and have hundreds of people either cheering or more so now booing you is something special. The fact that you can go out there and create that much emotion in people that they're wanting to either cheer or boo you is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the joys of this scene is that it's so expansive. There's so many types of companies, so many types of opponents. And I know obviously you've ventured out to places like FCW, CPW, and obviously Discovery Wrestling as well. To branch out from essentially your home promotion of WrestleZone to other places, was that a big step for you in your career?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I want there was getting tongue tied, God. Yeah, I think especially the first time I wrestled outside of WrestleZone, it was nerve wracking. But then you realize that it's just the exact same. It's just wrestling in front of a crowd. And you just got to try and get them to love you, hate you, put on the best match you can, just entertain them. At the end of the day, it's just entertainment. And I want to wrestle for as many companies as I can, as many places as I can. The goal is to keep expanding, keep trying to get to other companies, maybe down in England and things like that. Because it's just my favorite thing to do is, wrestling on a show with a crowd there. It's that feeling that is, the more I can get that, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great feeling, and a great feeling of joy, happiness, and all around enjoyment. And you've been quite a part of history, Connor, as well, because obviously you were on Discovery Wrestling's 10th anniversary show, obviously in Edinburgh as well, and it was you, Ronan King, and Emersyn Jayne as well in a triple threat, which is quite mental as well, to wrestle alongside Ronan and obviously Discovery Women's Champion and someone so highly regarded in Emersyn Jayne as well. But just to talk about that match and to be a part of that historic card and show in Discovery Wrestling's 10th anniversary show.
Yeah, no, that was great for a number of reasons. Ronan, one of my best friends in wrestling, and just in general. Getting to wrestle him. When I've seen him when he first started at WrestleZone when he was, I don't know, very young. To now, us wrestling at Discovery's 10-year anniversary in front of a sold out crowd of 500 people. Amazing. And then obviously adding Emersyn Jayne in the match was great. Emersyn, obviously, one of the best female wrestlers in the world at the minute. One of the biggest stars in the UK in general. So wrestling her was certainly a test, but like a very fun test. And yeah, I'm very happy with how that match went. Um, and yeah, Discovery Wrestling Year 10 was a very fun show. It was a very special, great atmosphere. And yeah, it's great to be a part of Discovery as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You've done so well for yourself in some say a short amount of time, but you've done a lot, man, and it's great to see. Connor, mate, it's been a pleasure to have you here on Soul Sessions. But before we wrap up, two final questions, my friend. First one is obviously we're only in March. There's no time to rush for Christmas shopping. We have time. We do not need to panic. But obviously, as we've mentioned before, time's always moving forward. Is there particular goals that you've got set in mind for 2025?
I think being able to branch out and get to some other promotions. I think wrestling down in England is definitely a goal of mine, something that I'd like to try and accomplish this year. Trying to get in like the best shape I've been in this year. That's just a personal thing more than anything. Obviously it helps in wrestling, but no, I think just I've really especially since the start of the year, been trying to hone in it. I've been going to training and at wrestling and Discovery as much as possible, and just bashing the gym as much as possible. So this year in particular, I feel like I've really stepped it up a gear and trying to improve myself all around. So that's hopefully going to pay off. And yeah, I'm just going to keep pushing and see where we can take it.
Take it to the end of the world, my friend. Let that journey take it and fly it on high. But obviously, final question. I like to make a bit of creative statements. I like to see things come into fruition. Some things are crazy, some things are logical. But you've tagged with Ronan. But I know Ronan King's obviously tagged with Judas Gray. So I mean, could we ever see you and Judas in the ring in a match? Ronan King in a shark cage. I mean, I'm just saying. Could that be a match?
I think it's definitely maybe year 11. Maybe that's where we'll discover year 11. Maybe we'll get that pitched, and we'll see if we can. I do like the visual of putting Ronan in a shark cage, even not just for a match. Even if we can just get that for anything, I think it would be fun.
Oh, we've had the legendary match, custody of Dominic Mysterio, custody of Ronan King, Discovery year 11. I mean, Connor, I think no matter what happens, when you're on that card, you'll be a big slay of a card, my friend. But Connor, mate, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the Soul Session. And of course, folks, if you love what you've heard of the big slay himself, I'll put a link to his Instagram down below. You can click it, follow his journey. And when his cage match profile blows up with that 1,000 matches, you can be here and say you saw the beginning of that journey. Now, of course, folks, finish up your pint, put your chairs away, and thank you as always for tuning in for another episode of the Soul. Now I'm out there, gonna live like animals do. No more love and no more